Hey, welcome. So last night I missed a few things and I wanted to go over them again. So the exhibit here I forgot to show yesterday in the reply to Fani Willis's opposition to disqualifying herself in the Michael Roman case, we see what appears to be a receipt from Vacation Express, and we have Nathan Wade and Fani Willis getting one king-size room with an ocean view and the European plan. I wonder if this is coming directly from the divorce filing in Nathan Wade's divorce. So, in other words, this receipt coming directly from Nathan Wade's ex-wife. And then we have some, other interesting tidbits in here. So we have the actual flight. We have the seats, window seats on the plane, of course. And I mean, this is kind of expensive. $3,000 here. We went over this last night. And of course, I messed up the margin. Fix it right now. But this is, shaming Nathan Wade here for not disqualifying and really just beginning this case at the outset with knowledge that he was having an affair with the district attorney and the fact that they were using taxpayer dollars to fund it. It goes on and on and on, but this is actually very succinct. 4 pages, love it. Shorter the better. Now, this doesn't have, this has a lot of citations in one of the footnotes here, but you're not seeing a lot of, arguments related to anything beyond just whatever's in that opposition that's really important to point out. So these 3 responses in Nathan Wade's affidavit. Even the fact that he is filing affidavits in these criminal cases is thorny and would otherwise require him to disqualify. And he hasn't disqualified himself yet. Now, as soon as Fani Willis gets up on the stand during this evidentiary hearing this week, you would presume then that it's game over for both of them. That was kind of the summation I gave earlier based on the 4-page motion reply. And here, we went over this earlier. This is a very long-winded opposition to President Trump's legal team's request for expansive discovery. And if you were to take away one thing from this, you would probably take away the fact that Jack Smith seems very aggravated throughout here, especially here in the background. And the language gets tense. And then, there's some sloppiness in here as well. I'm sure you could find other errors or omissions in here, from Jack Smith. If you're really trying and you had a larger team to do review on this, and you could kind of break up the filing into multiple segments and then have one reviewer review that piece of it with a fine-tooth comb. But aside from that, sham referral. So this is a 64-page response, which, you know, this is a big case. I would say it's probably 30 pages more than what is needed. However, it has a lot of Asperger type challenges and rebuttals for every single factual allegation. I didn't go over any of the CCTV stuff or really any of the argument section here. And I was actually kind of curious about the CCTV stuff. And I also have a couple tabs, including some early snippets of transcripts from Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin. Trump asked for CCTV footage. The government has said that they produced it, or rather that they've met their obligations for CCTV footage. They haven't said that they produced it. Request is currently based on easily rectifiable user error. Oh, interesting. So I wonder if this footage would ever be available on a docket or on the court's website. If Trump's legal team presents it in some way, maybe the Trump's legal team will probably put it on a Dropbox or something and then attach a link in a filing, and then it would be available to the public. The court won't have access to it unless the defense makes it public in a filing. So, these consisted of surveillance. I'm just reading this as I go, so I don't have time to think through everything before I just blurt stuff out. These consisted of surveillance footage the government obtained during the investigation from the Trump Organization, Secret Service, and two other entities. The government provided third-party CCTV footage via electronic links and offered as a courtesy to deliver to the defense hard drive arrays containing replicas of the productions. The government also provided so hard drives. That means that there's a lot of footage because it's not going to fit on just a thumb drive. I think that poses a problem a little bit for putting that in a public filing and then, you know, giving it out so that people can actually go and look at it, because it's going to be pretty extensive. The government also provides, so that means, and that also means that this could be multiple days, could be multiple weeks. We don't really know. Government also provided, I mean, I'm guessing this is just kind of like, I thought it was just kind of the raid on Mar-a-Lago, the CCTV footage for that. But there's also stuff at Trump Tower, the Trump Organization, apparently. Wonder what that's about. Maybe there were boxes at Trump Tower that they went in and retrieved, and maybe the Secret Service were there. I don't know. Maybe the Secret Service were around it. Who knows? The government also provided an index of the produced footage and specific clips of CCTV footage referenced in the superseding indictment or otherwise identified as pertinent to the case. To further facilitate ease of review, the government later created and distributed to defense counsel an additional detailed index of footage obtained during the investigation that included camera names. Oh, interesting. Metadata for the cameras, locations, camera type, date range of footage received, and production source log details. In correspondence accompanying each discovery production, the government offered to help defense counsel if they had any questions about how to access the production sets or any difficulty doing so. Counsel for Trump has never reported to the government being unable to view the footage as produced, and as detailed below, whenever the government has received notice from the other defendants that they were having difficulty, it has responded quickly. In an email on October 24th, 2023, months after the materials were made available to the defense, counsel for De Oliveira for the first time mentioned problems that he had encountered when attempting to access specific CCTV files that the government had obtained from the Trump Organization and produced in discovery. The government immediately arranged a call with counsel and technical personnel from the FBI to help resolve reported issues. Exhibit E at 2 to 3. During the call, counsel for De Oliveira explained that he did not own or have access to a laptop or desktop computer and was instead attempting to review the entirety of the government's discovery on a handheld tablet. I don't know what that's about. The government then offered to lend from him a laptop computer to facilitate his review. Okay, so Jack Smith has got tablets set up to undermine discovery review here. Counsel for De Oliveira accepted the offer, and on November 1, 2023, the government hand-delivered a computer to him. Since then, whenever De Oliveira's counsel has raised technical issues with viewing specific Trump Organization files, the government has promptly assisted with resolving these inquiries. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, right. Yeah, they want to fast track this, so. Okay, yep, they were copied. Could have got rid of this. They could have made this into like one sentence. They didn't really need to bemoan on and on about it. Then on January 11th, a couple weeks ago, Nada's counsel confirmed that he was able to extract all of the files, but had encountered difficulty attempting to launch the Milestone video application. Counsel's reference to Milestone was to a proprietary media player and camera system vendor platform used by the Trump Organization to record, archive, and play video footage. Okay, so so Trump has instructed everyone involved to slow play this and to come up with as many technical problems as humanly possible to delay the government and to make these objections. In any event, once notified of the problem, the government provided prompt assistance, because Jack is going out of his way to say that the government, has a technical support team and that they're working really hard to diligently provide for, De Oliveira and the rest of these individuals. Defendant's contention that the government first altered the raw data is received. It received and then knowingly produced it in a way that rendered it unviewable. Well, they did admit to copying it onto hard drive arrays. That is altering raw data. There are timestamps. So when you do a copy, that timestamp for the date that it's modified is changed. It's going to be, so minor that it's not going to impact the rules of evidence at trial. So it's going to be applicable to the case. First, a majority of the footage was provided by the Trump Organization, which, as noted, utilizes a proprietary player called Milestone. As a result, the government's available options for production were limited by the original source's information technology systems and data management practices. Okay, so Jack is going way out of his way here to prove that, the data wasn't corrupted. The government produced both a proprietary player and the video files in the same format that they were received. It's not true because he admitted earlier that he copied them onto an array of hard drives. So, lying by omission. The only intervening step was the standard practice of compressing the footage to facilitate containerizing the individual files and confirming via hash verification that all footage the government obtained was produced. Okay, so they use like an MD5 hash, which is like a asymmetric, I believe. Maybe it's an asymmetric encryption hash that provides some level of verification that the data has integrity. So these MD5 hashes were popularized by torrents, BitTorrent specifically, and they're used as a way to ensure the integrity of the original file itself. However, the way that they're using them here is only showing up to the sufficiency of Brady, meaning the government only wants to prove that it actually gave the footage. It doesn't want to prove that the data is actually consistent and has integrity. And so that's kind of the issue here, because, I mean, if you really, really want to be as detailed as possible when explaining this, you would want to reference the fact that Jack Smith here admitted to copying these video files onto an array of hard drives. And in doing so, the modification timestamps change when they're doing the copy. And the hash itself is only showing, I mean, without additional information here, that the government produced some footage. We don't know if that footage is similar or not similar to whatever was actually on the Milestone system when it was taken by the FBI. The defendant's attempt to equate the standard practice of compressing files with deliberately altering those files to render them unviewable is misleading and baseless. Now, I get it. just copying the data over to a different hard drive in this context isn't going to be enough to, gain any traction with the court or significantly oppose this motion, but I'm just being as technical as possible. Second, the government's history of prompt responsiveness in helping counsel navigate any technical problems, including making FBI technical support available and providing laptops to counsel, belies the defendant's characterization of the government as delaying or impeding counsel's ability to view the footage. The government has produced the CCTV footage in an accessible format and has also taken several additional steps to facilitate ease of review for defense counsel, all of whom are able to access and view the footage. Accordingly, the court should deny as moot the defendant's unsupported request for an order compelling production of the CCTV footage in an accessible format. Well, I mean, it is true, though, that it would be probably easier to deal with if it was, on a Dropbox or something, or if it was just a raw video recording. I mean, I'm sure that there's also a level here where Jack Smith is trying to be as difficult as possible to defense counsel. And if you were to just provide like the MPEG or the raw video format taken, I don't know what format Milestone produces, but I'm sure that it's probably something like a MPEG. And they could probably extract the source file and then put it on Dropbox, which is really just putting it on AWS and S3, because Dropbox is just a wrapper around S3. S3 is this raw storage service in Amazon Web Services. Technically, it's Amazon Web Service. Interesting. So Trump's legal team also asked for unredacted discovery of materials. It gets thorny here because some defense counsel don't have security clearances for certain data here. It's not like Trump can transfer his security clearance as a former president with executive privilege to his attorneys because they've denied executive privilege. So it's a catch-22, chicken and egg problem. And not that even if Trump wasn't being prosecuted, Trump wouldn't be able to do that. But my point here is that, I mean, there's a lot of thorny problems. And even if Trump had a NARA counsel, former White House counsel or someone who had the appropriate security clearances to view this evidence, Jack Smith still would not give unredacted discovery material for many reasons, one of which is that, if in any way this information got out, then, that would be a problem. Plus, he just wants to be a dick to Trump and Trump's legal team. Redactions to the discovery in this case were made for information such as, email addresses, personal information, classification markings, defendants. So we're going to create some case law and some precedent on all this. The defendants have not articulated why redactions in particular. So even if Trump were to, and I don't think this is an immediately appealable order by any means, meaning that if this is, and maybe it is, you'd have to go look. I don't think it is. Oftentimes, these discovery disputes are not appealable. In fact, I'm about 90% sure it isn't. But in a criminal context, it could be different. You'd have to file like a writ with a circuit appellate court or something. And even then, it would get struck down. But that's the problem with these court systems, I guess. And Canada, their court system allows you to file immediate appeals for discovery disputes, which is wholly different than the American system. And that's probably one way that Canada and their court system is superior to the federal court system in the US. And most state courts operate off of the model of the federal court system and then tweak here and there. So if this is not an immediately appealable order, what this means is that Chutkan can do whatever she wants, and her ruling can only be reviewed if Trump decides to appeal, if this case makes it to trial before the election. And these federal court systems are extremely, extremely overwhelmed and busy. And if they want to waste a bunch of Chutkan's time on a case like this, when she could be doing other important things like ruling on a bunch of civil cases, conducting criminal trials, all kinds of stuff for actual violent crime in DC, it goes to show you, I mean, and then, you know, we're seeing a lot of violent crime that's going unprosecuted right now in DC. It goes to show you like what and where their priorities are. But since this discovery order, you know, it would be nice if Trump could appeal this, because then the appellate court would have a chance to make precedent on some of this executive privilege stuff. And that's, I think, what they would want to do. And that's something they would have some control over. But they won't get that opportunity probably ever, because Trump will pardon himself on day one from this case. Defendants Nada and Oliveira's request for disclosure of non-classified discovery should be denied as moot. Okay. Okay, that's it. I wanted to go over a couple other things related to the Tucker Carlson early brief transcripts that are coming out of small pieces of the interview with Vladimir Putin. I have some other stuff, unfortunately, in the way here. I didn't organize this very well. So let's just play these. A huge crowd of people surrounded the building of Swedish state media, SVT.
Tillbaka SVT. SVT är vårt! Ge en applåd!
Yes, applaud.
Nu tar vi en journalist på Fredsnät. Hans namn är Torbjörn Riff. Tillbaka SVT. SVT är vårt!
There's a few words I understand.
Ge en applåd!
Yes, applaud.
Fantastiskt.
Fantastic.
Nu tar vi en journalist på Fredsnät. Hans namn är Torbjörn Riff. Tillbaka SVT. SVT!
These senators stood up against Mitch McConnell today. Rubio, Mike Lee, Daines, Rick Scott, Schmidt, Rand Paul, J.D. Vance, Josh Hawley, Ron Johnson, Marsha Blackburn, Ted Cruz, and Tommy Tuberville. This is related to that border security bill. Okay, that's it. It's a PSYOP. Taylor Swift. We got 2 trucks. Got a meme here with your boy Vladimir Zelensky. I told Biden that if he didn't give me another $1 billion, that I would expose his corruption. Well, son of a bitch. Saying we are a country of immigrants is an insult to our ancestors. We are a nation of settlers, pioneers, and conquerors. It's true. I think that's partly why some of this harshness and brutality is kind of bred into Americans to some extent, even though, my family's really only been here since 1890 from some of the records I have access to. That's, 140 years, various world wars. And even though my family has kept insular, meaning not a ton of bullshit going on. They've fought for this country, and so that's changed in the past 20 years, where we've had this onslaught of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have just a bunch of immigrants stealing American jobs, whether that's H-1Bs or now we have in other fields, Mexicans, Venezuelans, Chinese, everyone and their mom coming in and taking American jobs, getting a bunch of benefits. But this is a good picture to depict the good old days. When there was freedom in this country and you could do whatever you wanted.
What I eat in a day as someone who's unemployed and broke. I was craving a smoothie at Erewhon, so I decided to walk there because gas is so expensive. You're probably thinking, what the hell, why is she at Erewhon if she's broke? Well, I'm using my EBT, okay? So this shit was technically free. Anyway, I got the Hailey Bieber smoothie. That shit's like crack. And then I got a
she's
Tiger
young,
roll
so...
and a salmon crispy rice.
And
this
she's
orange
in Los
coconut
Angeles.
Yogurt. Oh my god. They used to have it, but they took it away because it was like
This is
limited
kinda
edition,
mean
but I think
from
it's back.
Ian Miles Chong. You wonder if he got hit by a couple of women OnlyFans types who just tried to take a bunch of money from him, and this is his form of retaliation against them.
Again, like for real. And the last thing I got was this turkey cranberry sandwich. This is my first time trying the Tiger roll. It had...
I mean, that does look like expensive food. Not my kind of food. It does look like expensive. It looks very Asian. That's probably why it's not my kind of food, but I mean, she's young and she's living in Los Angeles. She's got a crazy necklace on.
Like real crab in it, so I thought it'd be good, but it wasn't.
So at least she's got an opportunity to get a full-time job and support herself.
Good. Don't get this, you guys.
Or, just continue to try and grift off men.
It's not worth it. I really wanted to return it after eating this first bite, but they don't take returns if you opened it, so I had to keep it. And then I
Return food? Are you kidding me? What drugs is she on?
I had some salmon crispy rice. I usually get the tuna crispy rice or the crab one. So I never had this, but this was pretty good. Honestly, only the crispy rice, the sushi sandwich, and then their vegan tuna, which they don't make anymore, were...
Like living in Los Angeles, if you're young and you don't make a lot of money, or in these expensive cities, and they get super cheap about things like food and stuff. It's like, if you're getting cheap about food, I mean, you have bigger problems. You need to work on the thing that is the most expensive: rent, utilities, because you should always have really plenty of money for food in this country, and clothing.
The only good rolls at Erewhon.
And transportation.
So don't waste your money on their sushi. Unless you have EBT, then go ahead and go try it. Ciao.
Unless you have EBT, unless taxpayers are funding. Ooh. He's gonna kill him. No, that's not good. Gotta get off him. People are fed up in this country, though. You can tell. I mean, Senator James Lankford threw away his career in the Senate for nothing. Mitch McConnell put him in charge of negotiating on behalf of the GOP for a border security bill. Then when Mitch realized everyone hated it, he told all the GOP senators to announce they are against it, leaving Lankford's reputation in shambles. Everyone on X considers him a traitorous rhino. In reality, so is Mitch McConnell. But he is trying to let Lankford take the hit entirely for this one. Dinesh D'Souza, should Georgia Governor Brian Kemp impeach District Attorney Fani Willis? I think the legislature would be responsible for impeaching Fani. I don't think the governor can do anything about it. I think maybe the governor could intervene, maybe issue an executive order kicking Fani Willis off the case or firing her, which he should do as well, but he won't because he's a pussy. Trump's post from 35 minutes ago: if immunity is not granted to a president, this is a good omen for Joe Biden in 2025. And this is where things get really tense and difficult in this country because, again, I'm a big fan of forgiveness. I pray for other people. I pray for people who are trying to persecute me. I pray for I pray for my enemies. And, that's why forgiveness is so powerful. I agree. Every president that leaves office will be immediately indicted by the opposing party. Without a complete immunity, the president of the United States would not be able to properly function. This is a veiled assertion about President Joe Biden. I hate calling him president. That's a misstatement by Joe Biden. Because now we already know Trump is going to win in 2024. And even if they ram through some conviction in any of these cases, it's not going to change a thing. I saw a couple articles saying that the E. Jean Carroll case is like a test run for some of the criminal trials. And Trump's popularity increased following the verdict in the damages trial of the E. Jean Carroll case. It's only going to continue to increase if convictions are gained in any of the criminal trials. Now, in 2025, on January 20th, 2025, when Trump takes office, does this mean that Biden will get indicted? And will we just have this back and forth now for the rest of time that the opposing party wants to prosecute the other party? And I can tell you for sure that I don't think there's any going back on this. I don't think you could tell President Trump anything. And this is just pure speculation on my part. I don't think there's anything you could tell President Trump at this point. President Trump has to make his own mind up. That would change Trump's mind on whether to prosecute Joe Biden or whether to push the Department of Justice as much as possible, as hard as possible, and appoint an attorney general willing to do it. Because if I were a betting man, I would say 99.999% chance that Trump would want to prosecute Biden, but is leaving it up to the first day when he's back in office to fully make that decision. Now, maybe that could change, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Trump, Trump does have a lot of forgiveness. I know that he does. But I think what Biden did in this case is unforgivable. You cannot forgive anybody for doing this to half the country. He's not just doing this to Trump. He's not just doing this to Trump's family. He's doing this to more than half the country, millions and millions of people. And, those acts are certainly something that cannot be forgiven. So if I were Trump, even though, for the sake of the country, I probably wouldn't prosecute Biden, but I would definitely ensure, and criminally, I wouldn't prosecute Biden. I would definitely ensure that Biden was prosecuted civilly. Because there needs to be accountability for what happened here. Minimum, some civil accountability. Like, he needs to be bankrupted. Putin is playing chess. I think Putin has a level of stability in Russia that affords him the luxury of thinking through a lot of the moves. Whereas in the US, what you're seeing is our political system is being destabilized. And Republicans and Trump, they don't have the resources or time anymore that they used to, at least, to be able to react to some of these moves. And Putin and Russia are taking advantage because they have a more stable political system right now. Developing Democrat megadonor and Jeffrey Epstein pal Reid Hoffman, who visited Lolita Island, is helping fund new anti-Trump cabal ahead of 2024 election. Group is led by bogus Hillary dossier peddler Mark Elias and Obama Russiagate operative Mary McCord. In the United States, Musk's companies have received substantial support from the government in the form of contracts, subsidies, and other incentives. For example, SpaceX has won numerous contracts from NASA and the Department of Defense to launch satellites and transport cargo to the International Space Station. Tesla has also received subsidies to support the development and production of electric vehicles. Okay, so we have kind of I'm not good with these chain tweets here. I'm not sure if this is part of the full transcript or not, so I'm just going to read what I'm pretty certain about. So I apologize if this is a little bit jing-jangy, Tucker. So this is apparently some of the questions that were asked between Tucker Carlson and Putin. Tucker, let's turn to politics. What's your opinion of President Biden? Now, this is, I haven't confirmed whether this is the actual transcript either, by the way. It only has 11,000 views, so I'm not sure if this is a mock transcript or what. I suppose I should probably check that out here, but let me do this. Don't know. Have no idea. Tucker, let's turn to politics. What's your opinion of President Biden, Putin? We are convinced he's not running the country. So this must be a mock transcript. Let's say we have sources that confirm that, but it's plain for anyone to see. The U.S. has now entered into a dark period. Well, Putin does say that a lot, so maybe it's not. It has unaccountable leadership. Well, that's true. on all levels, local, city, county, state, federal. Tucker, so who do you think is running the US then? Putin. The same forces which have always run it. You may change presidents, but you do not change those in real power. That is who we have to deal with. Joe Biden is just a facade for this power structure. Must be mock interview transcript. It must be fake. It just popped up on the stream, so of the timeline for Twitter. Okay. We'll read them out anyways. We'll find out later when the real interview comes out and we can see a video. Tucker, but my bet is that this is not real. Because it have way more views. So, but you know, we can go back to see if this was accurate or what. Accurate in the sense that she was predicting what Putin would say. Let's turn to Trump. First, tell me how you feel about the current situation with the likelihood of him being reelected. Putin. It would be a bit strange and out of order, but we are well prepared. He has promised to end the fighting in Ukraine, and we support that notion. Tucker, how could he end the war so fast? Putin, for one thing, he never insulted us. He has a great respect for Russia. We would start from a position of friendship and trust. Then all problems are solvable. We could get it done, trust me. Tucker, are you referring to Biden calling him a Putin? We have been the recipients of numerous insults and slurs going back a few generations of politicians. Mr. Trump was, I don't think you would call President Trump Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump was a refreshing break from that. He's very popular in Russia. Perhaps that won't do him any good. Tucker, are you in any communication with Trump? Putin, no, of course not. But should he win again, our lines of communication would open up instantly, whereas right now we have no dialogue with President Biden. Tucker, that's shocking to me. No one from the White House has been in contact with you? Putin, that's right. No one has called since we congratulated Mr. Biden on his election victory. It's puzzling to us that communications are colder now than during the Cold War. Are you following what's happening on the U.S. southern border? Actually, yes. It's part of my daily briefing. We Russians find it ironically amusing your Congress will spend billions protecting foreign borders but neglect its own. It's quiet, laughable, but deadly. Deadly? How do you mean that? Deadly serious, of course. People are dying daily crossing your border in an uncontrolled way. It is a free-for-all. The world hasn't seen anything like it in the modern era. Reckless for a country to throw itself wide open like that. Maybe it is real. All right. So I didn't have a ton of time to vet whether or not this was real. So I could have just stumbled on this because it just came out. One thing stuck out at me when talking about Elon Musk. Putin said he didn't blame him for Starlink in Ukraine because the government didn't give him much choice. Well, I think what that means is DARPA went to Elon Musk and said, hey, we're going to give you a bunch of money for SpaceX, but you have to do whatever we tell you to do. And Elon Musk was completely fine with that. And now Elon is stuck in this position where he has to launch these quasi-military satellites for Space Force. And allow Starlink to be used for these proxy conflicts. And since Tesla is being attacked, Elon Musk more than ever has to rely on federal subsidies like a welfare recipient in order to continue to survive as a company. Seven illegal immigrants arrested for alleged string of robberies in New York City. Ringleader on the loose. Being blocked here.
Who are you working with? Where's Para?
¿Por qué lo hiciste?
No sabemos.
¿Tu jefe dónde está?
¿Tienes miedo que te deporten?
How much money did you make?
The English speaking world has already reached its limit. We got the Tucker Carlson Canadian video.
Louder!
This is Ireland.
Beautiful!
Protests against illegal immigration.
Our nation once again.
I mean, it's amazing to think that Ireland is being put on this illegal immigration schedule. You don't imagine that this could happen in Ireland for some reason.
And plus, I hope someday to hope I'm such
The Irish are such resilient and sort of, hardy/negative peoples. Isn't there a prime minister, an illegal immigrant or something? He's an immigrant. Some good Irish music. Good bar, Irish bar music. I mean, once the Scottish and Irish raise up against the English or any other foreign power, it's kind of game over, right? I mean, the reason that the Irish and the Scottish are so anti-establishment is because they've been raided by the Vikings so many times. And if anything, the first foreign invaders were Vikings, and they've installed their seed in the Irish. That's why a lot of the Irish on the coast have blue eyes. And that formed the basis for a lot of the anti-establishment that you had throughout Irish and Scottish history in the last 1,000 years. That's why the Scottish were able to defeat the English.
Have your attention for one moment, please. It is up to us, through Irish nationalists, to protect our history and our way of life from being eroded. We, as Irish
And the Irish have that Scandinavian sort of warrior tribe instinct.
people, need to stand tall, stand united, and be steadfast. Because in my opinion, a storm's a coming.
Storm is coming.
Many minutes to get on Twitter.
More kids are gaining Second Amendment skills. Good for them.
6:45. Ives trying to kill him. Clear.
Shock video. Aliens on moped drag women along NYC street and rob her. Cops reveal Venezuelan gang is linked to dozens of similar attacks. 2 thugs identified and arrested. Toronto.
Police are sharing video from an attempted break-and-enter incident yesterday near Queen and Victoria Park just before 4 a.m. Investigators say 4 men tried to force their way into a home, but despite all that effort, they weren't successful. They eventually gave up. As you can
This
see,
is
they fled
happening
a
in
dark-colored
Toronto.
vehicle.
Toronto is the cleanest city in North America.
Anyone with information is asked to contact police at 55 Division, or you can do so
This
anonymously
stuff doesn't happen
at
in
Crime
Canada.
Stoppers. And
Prosecute Biden for treason. Our border is open on purpose. Africa is 430 times the size of Ireland. So why do Africans have to live in Ireland? Good question. Good question. I like it. Yeah, why do they have to come to Europe? Like, what was all this propaganda about Western civilization being somehow, better. Like, we hear all this news about the United States being a land that should welcome immigrants, and that we have so many opportunities in the United States. Yet Africa is like 3 or 4 times bigger than the United States. If you had the proper infrastructure in Africa in general, it could be way, way, way better than the United States, including considering the fact that they have way more access to natural resources in Africa. So yeah, why do they need to come to Ireland and the United States? I mean, again, I'm not trying to. We're taught in, with the Judeo-Christian values that were brought up on to love everyone. Love travelers coming to this country who need help. It's not their fault. But you can do the same thing if you just do it where they currently live, right? Like, why do you need to bring them here? And I'm sure that a lot of Africans have a way higher quality of life than a lot of Americans, too. It's kind of insulting to bring them to the United States because they're bringing the single men for a good reason. And you know that a lot of these African men who come to the United States and a lot of the Arab men who come to Europe and the United States, what are they thinking about? from the age of 16 to 35, 16 to 45, really, 16 to 40. They want to marry, or they want to have relationships with women from these cultures. And they're just doing it to mess the whole system up, mess families up, you know? Waste of the day, over 1 billion in weapons missing in Ukraine. $1 billion in weapons. Got it. Every single author on Zero Hedge has the name Tyler Durden. It's Fight Club. Main character. Okay. Go into this. Yep, got it. Lara Logan. Wind power is a complete green scam. It cannot be built without massive amounts of fossil fuels. Financially, they don't make any sense. None of the materials can be recycled. At the end of their 12 to 20 year lifespan, they have to bury those blades. It's Benny Thompson again with Thomas Massey.
DNC, when that pipe bomb was sitting there. Dude,
I don't, you know, we did not, our investigation was looking at the facts and circumstances. We knew that there were pipe bombs. I'm sure the evidence will say she was wherever she is, but, you know, I'm trying to get to your point.
okay, well, my point is,
Donald Trump has said if reelected president, he will stop all money and aid to Ukraine. Do you support this? I don't know if Trump has said that. I would need an actual citation. I wish Trump lover, whoever this is, Subrata 300-16572 from India would have cited his basis for saying this. Concerned citizen. Talking about vitamin D and sunlight. This is a meme showing, I think, the moon being covered, or the sun being, I don't know, the sun being covered with, okay, so we have the moon, the light's there, but it's the sun here. So the sun is being covered by clouds. This is day 1, and this is 25. It's hard to tell if this is a cloud or if these are chemtrails. I don't know. So we're not getting vitamin D from the moon, so only from the sun. Ben Gaver's son questions Biden's mental health. His post on X, which implied Biden has Alzheimer's disease, was quickly deleted and prompted Ben Gaver to issue an apology. Shabal, my son, my favorite of all, but tonight he made a grave mistake in a tweet that I deeply disapprove of. Doesn't want U.S. aid to end to Israel. The United States of America is our great friend, and President Biden is a friend of Israel. Even if I have a disagreement with his conduct, there is no room, God forbid, for a disparaging style. Respect for humanity is A and B. This is how I educate my children. I apologize for my son's words. Cheval Ben says, in these difficult times, it is important to raise awareness of Alzheimer's, a degenerative disease of the brain that is the most common cause of cognitive decline, and dementia in old age, a serious disease that impairs a person's function and ability. With a picture of Joe Biden here and the hashtag Joe Biden. DG Mayorkas deserves prison time for his open border policy that makes America unsafe. So much for the most secure election in history. Evidence provided by Michigan's dishonest SOS reveals hundreds of individuals cast more than one vote under same voter ID in 2020, 2022, and 2023 elections. Why hasn't anyone been prosecuted? How the U.S. federal government is on an unsustainable fiscal path, and that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy, so it is unsustainable. Pelly, I have the sense that worries you very much. Powell, over the long run, of course it does. You know, we're borrowing from future generations. But I do think it's pretty widely understood that it's time for us to get back to putting a priority on fiscal sustainability, and sooner is better than later. Pelly, urgent. Powell, you could say that it was urgent, yes. Pelly, what is the likelihood of another real estate-led banking crisis? Powell, I don't think that's likely. We looked at the larger banks' balance sheets, and it appears to be a manageable problem. There are some smaller and regional banks that have concentrated exposures in these areas that are challenged. Bigger banks are going to get richer. They're going to buy smaller banks and smaller mid-sized regional banks. I always cite the example of Wells Fargo in this, and Wells Fargo being a company that's currently headquartered in San Francisco, but it also has a lot of history in South Dakota. And Wells Fargo really was American Express back in the day, where it was a security service for money during the Western expansion in this country, in the gold rush. They were just capable of providing the Century support, the security to protect wagons filled with money between the West and the East. And how that evolved over the years, in Wells Fargo making most of its wealth during the banking crisis in the 20s, and continuing to buy up smaller banks and becoming the massive behemoth that it is today, even though it is eroding a little bit because of Elizabeth Warren. Manageable failure is the new soft landing. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is predicting that more small banks will likely close or merge due to commercial real estate weaknesses, but that the problem is ultimately manageable. Should Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas be impeached and arrested for treason due to the invasion they allowed at our southern border? Yes. At least they all arrived legally. The American freed The American freed blacks treated the native Liberians like second-class citizens. Nobody talks about this. A black family, presumably from the United States, that had traveled back to Liberia to found the nation of Liberia. So it doesn't just make you immune from moral consequences because of your skin color. Spain, the EU thought it was over. It's just the beginning. Unmute.
Impresionante.
So annoying, isn't it? So Spain has got involved now too. I didn't even know there were many farms in Spain, but clearly you don't really think about Spain as being a agricultural powerhouse, but maybe they're not, but I guess every country has just a bunch of farmers. So John Deere tractors, it's kind of surreal seeing so many John Deere tractors in Europe, because those tractors are kind of produced here in the Midwest. So the whole world wants Donald Trump back in the White House. Dear government, the moment you go against the Constitution you swore to uphold and say citizens don't need guns, this is when we need a lot of guns. Sprinter, Victoria Nuland, her visits to Sudan, Ecuador, Niger, and Pakistan, which ended in the beginning of great chaos, are examples of the past year. By the way, Nuland was in Turkey just last week. If you see this woman in your country, you are about to have a civil war. Let's discuss what Islam offers. Oppression of women, honor killings, hostage taking, female genital mutilation, all kinds of other bad stuff, jihad. It's got a lot of views. The illegal immigrants are confused by modern American culture and specifically woke culture. They don't like the woke nonsense. Or at least they're confused by it. Okay, that's it. Please like the video, follow and subscribe. No comments. Probably see you later today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks for watching Command HQ with Brooke and Agent X. We'll see you next